Hello, welcome to First Edition. I'm John Leonard. I'm in no way related to our guest, Elmore Leonard, except as an astonished reader who has found himself absorbed, almost against my will, in Elmore Leonard's evocations, first of Detroit and then of Miami, two cities that weren't on my map until he put them there, and peopled them with splendid solitaries, loners so closely observed that it seems they were waiting around at the bottom of the social order for Elmore Leonard to give them speech. Mr. Leonard has written mysteries, he has written screenplays, he has written detective stories, and now he is writing novels that belong to no convenient category I can think of except just plain literature, full of language stripped of ornament, down to the essentials of the thing seen, and the shock absorbed, and the discrepancy examined like a wound. Murder never seems to be as important in these novels as character, and character achieves its expression in speech so true, so unerringly heard, that it seems our ears, at least in New York, were gummed up until he made us listen. Nancy?
Hello, I'm Nancy Evans. Elmore Leonard, who goes by the name Dutch, is probably less well-known than the titles of his books and movies. Stick, one of his most popular suspense thrillers, will be at theaters this summer with Burt Reynolds in the title role. Ombre with Paul Newman was based on a novel by Leonard. But unlike the literary writer who goes Hollywood, Leonard is a sometimes screenwriter who's going literary. His most recent book, La Brava, won praise from reviewers as superb fiction that just happens to be about crime. For other superb novels to read, Clifton Fadiman will add his Critics' Choice to a recent best novel list compiled by Anthony Burgess. And John and I will review two books, each with a different take on that state of mind called Cambridge, here on First Edition. Elmore Leonard's settings are Detroit and increasingly Miami, where the pink flamingo seedy set rubs up against the white belt and white shoes nouveau riche. A typical Leonard plot, this one for Stick, goes according to Leonard like this. An ex-con goes to work for a millionaire investor who thinks he's a stand-up comic. Add a few more characters inside and outside the law, throw in a few things I know about Hollywood and how movie deals are made, and see what happens. What's been happening is that reviewers agree he's the next Raymond Chandler, the creator of hard-boiled detective fiction for the 80s. His heroes may be petty crooks, but they display a decency and sensitivity that would make a liberated woman swoon. His female characters may be built like the blockbuster blonde in Mickey Spillane, but they've also got brains. And Leonard's men find this irresistible. A woman who's smarter than they is no problem. Once you read just one of his books, you'll find Elmore Leonard a habit hard to kick. The critics seem to be having a debate among themselves about whether you are a genre writer or whether you're now joined the mainstream fiction. Where do you stand on all of that?
This has been a problem with my editors for years and years. They say, you fall right into the scene. You're not a mystery writer. You write crime, but you've got a lot of other things going on that you don't ordinarily find in a crime novel. And I said, well, look, I'll write it and you sell it. Yeah, this is up to you, because by then I'd finally reached the point where I wasn't grateful to be published, you know, and it takes a number of years, I think, to get over that. You're really going to publish my book? Wow.
Yeah, but whatever genre you're theoretically writing, or they would hope that you would write for, all your characters, your heroes, are loners in extreme situations. It's the character that attracts my attention. I mean, was that what attracted you at the beginning to the Western? Has it got a frontier? Now you've got a big city, you've got whatever. But
yeah, I think in the Western, and pretty much, the theme continues. The main character is misjudged. He looks like an ordinary guy. He looks like nothing to worry about. And by the time the antagonist realizes that they've misjudged him, this guy has turned it around and is coming after them, because he always stands up. Now that's about as simple as I could describe the theme. It's kind of Destry rides again, in a way, very, very, very loosely.
That's a pretty standard definition of manhood, too, isn't it?
I suppose, sure.
You test me, I will...
But my man is not completely serious. He's not, he sees the absurdity in his situation. Is this really happening?
This is why the books are funny in the middle of the crime.
And he does what he has to do, of course. And I think what it comes down to are my influences. I mean, I started out influenced by Hemingway, and I read Hemingway and studied Hemingway. I read James M. Cain and studied him. But I also studied Mark Harris, Richard Bissell, Kurt Vonnegut, Brautigan. So if you can imagine a combination of Richard Bissell, 7.5 cents, you know, or Mark Harris, Bang the Drum Slowly, writing a Hemingway story, I think that's sort of what I'm doing and why publishers have so much trouble trying to define what I'm doing.
What were you looking for, say, in a Richard Bissell? I mean, what did you feel the
Well,
need
I
of?
liked-
You're a working writer. You've worked all your life as a writer, in one form or another. Did you read a particular writer to solve a problem? What did you read Richard
No.
Bissell to solve for you?
I started to read Richard Bissell. I read, what was it, 7.5 cents? Was that the Goodbye,
yeah.
Goodbye Ava, Stretch on the River,
Yeah.
Mark Harris, Bang the Drum Slowly, the Southpaw, one or two others. I liked their attitude. I liked the way they viewed life. I liked the way they handled their characters. I liked the way Bissell's lead would take his girlfriend for a ride and take her down to the Mississippi River or to show her certain plants. I mean, factories. He shows her what the industry is there along the river on a date, you see. Things like that appeal to me.
The attitude.
Yeah, the attitude. I write with my attitude, which becomes my style, my sound. I read in a review that I'm a stylist, that you can tell my writing.
Oh, for sure.
In fact, now that I've been parodied in National Lampoon,
You arrived.
yes, and it wasn't bad. It did sound like me. And when I read it, when I see this string of participle phrases preceding the verb, then you see the Hemingway influence, you see. But I took construction from him without taking his attitude.
No,
Thank
you're
God.
There's no machismo rubbish in your books. That's the odd thing.
There is machismo, but not on the part of the hero.
Yeah.
The other,
Well, and also, I mean, the guys are sensitive. I mean, any woman would swoon over one of these guys, and the women are also a surprise. I mean, my picture of a woman in one of these the so-called hard-boiled detective fiction is she's a broad, and you've got these women who are gorgeous and blonde, but they're smart.
well, I worked hard on my women. There was a review in the Detroit Free Press some years ago said that my sensitivity toward women was about on a par with Mickey Spillane. And I didn't think, I took exception to that, but at the same time, I looked a little more closely at my women characters, and I worked a little harder on them, and my wife has helped me a lot, an awful lot, in bringing to life my women characters, and using different kinds of women.
Would there ever come a day when you would make a woman your central?
The next one was going to be, but it
Yeah.
isn't. Now it's going to be she's one or two books away.
But she's coming.
Mm-hmm.
That's good news.